Good morning, everybody. Hello, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to A Coastal Thrifter. And if it's your first time here, I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Thank you for coming and sitting here with me this morning and having a little talk. So today's video is obviously my story, my thrift story, how I became a thrifter, and what motivates me to thrift. So let's take a deep dive. To go into why I am a thrifter, we have to look back into my childhood. Yes, way back. After my parents divorced in the early 80s, we were living in Denver, Colorado, in actually Lakewood, and my mother was in the mountains in Evergreen. My mother and my sister lived in Evergreen, and my father and I lived in Denver. So for whatever reason, I guess I was just a little bit hard to handle. She sent me to live with my dad, which probably wasn't a great idea because my dad was a full-blown alcoholic and was nursing his wounds from the divorce. So it wasn't a healthy environment for me at all. We didn't have a lot of money. And so like from the age of 13, 14 years old on, I kind of bounced a little bit back and forth between the two households. And Evergreen, up in the mountains, was a rather wealthy community with a lot of kids who had a lot of nice things. And I did not. Oh, here's Tara. Tara hears me talking. Tara decided to join our conversation this morning. Relatively speaking, I wasn't, impoverished or anything, but I definitely wasn't living financially at the same level as a lot of the other kids in our community. So that left me wanting. So one of the things I did when I was down in Denver living with my dad in the apartment, she's pushing the camera, sorry, was dumpster diving. I started dumpster diving for soda cans and beer cans, which I could bag up and take to the local supermarket and pour into a big machine, and it would spit out money. It was like magic for a teenager. I liked playing video games back then, and I always looking for pocket change to sit there and play Asteroids or Pac-Man or what have you. And because my dad was an alcoholic, I didn't necessarily want to be around the house because he was very negative. And so it got me out of the house, and playing video games was sort of an escape for me, which wasn't great because I wasn't spending any time working on schoolwork or homework or, higher intellectual pursuits. But I was keeping myself safe, I suppose, emotionally at the time. And so I would strap on a pair of snow boots and jump into the dumpster on a Sunday night after the apartment complex had been partying all weekend long and watching football and what have you. And it would just be like a gold mine full of empty beer cans free for the taking. And then I'd also find other things in there too. Sometimes I'd find clothes or a plant stand or what have you. And some of that stuff I would just take home and wash and clean up, and there you go. I had free stuff. But it was also the height of the punk era. So the early 1980s was very, excuse me, hold on, I have to pause. I have a phone call coming in. Okay, sorry. As I was saying, yes, it was the 1980s. It was the height of the punk era. And so individualism and thrift shop style was actually kind of in. People would just kind of pride themselves on the different looks and things that they could put together at school, and looking unusual in some way or another, having a little bit of personal style was encouraged back then. You definitely wanted to stand out a little bit. So I turned then to the local thrift store. There was a little, what was it called? There was a consignment shop that was in the shopping center close enough to the apartments that I could walk there. And it was something like, Renew Again or something like that. Anyways, I found the coolest little things in there, and they were affordable for me. By then I had started working at McDonald's part-time and was making a little bit of money. So I would take some of my paycheck then and go and spend it at the thrift. And I ended up with some nice clothes and not having to look like a street urchin. I exaggerate a little bit, but yeah, it expanded my wardrobe, gave me some more options. So there was that portion of my thrift story. And I guess if you go back even farther than that, the very first time I ever went to a yard sale was in up in Detroit, Michigan area, when we were up there one summer visiting with our family. We were visiting our grandmother, and I spent the day with my Aunt Marion. And Aunt Marion was the quintessential suburban housewife. She ran that house. She raised 3 or 4 kids, and she was just everything a housewife should be, right? And she says, "All right, come on, we're gonna go to the tag sales." And I was like, "Tag sales?" This was a concept I had never heard of before. I'm like, "What is a tag sale?" And my mom was a young, upwardly mobile, professional woman. And my dad also, both of them college educated and both of them like extremely focused on their careers. We never went to yard sales. I didn't even know what a yard sale was. Okay. So it kind of blew my mind. Like, what? You mean people put stuff in their yard and sell it? And so that was my first experience, was going to yard sales, or AKA tag sales, with my Aunt Marion. And I bought myself a couple toys for $0.25. And I just thought that was the best thing ever. And I got my very first rock album later on, a couple years later, when I was a kid in Southern California at a yard sale. I wouldn't have even known to go if it hadn't have been for Aunt Marion taking me to the yard sales. So after I left Colorado when I was about 17 years old, I moved down here to Florida. My father had moved here to Florida. My mom and my sister remained in Denver, and my dad kind of lured me down here, with promises of perhaps being able to sing in the nightclubs, because I was a musician and he had friends down here that were musicians, and he had some sort of grand plan of being able to get me on stage down here. So that was tempting enough. He lured me down here. And shortly after my dad lured me down here, he left. He moved to Ohio to finish a law degree. He broke up with the girlfriend he was staying with. He was indeed still drinking heavily, even though he had kind of led me to believe that he had it under control. So I felt a little bit put out by that. But, what can you do? I was 17 years old. I was down here in Florida, and I was suddenly homeless. So I kind of got by couch surfing for a while, I guess, if that makes sense. And I worked really hard. I worked several jobs, part-time job here, part-time job there. Nobody wanted to give a 17-year-old child a full-time day job anywhere. So I had to piece it together the best I could. And I ended up moving in with a boyfriend that I met and lived with him for a while. And ended up in the restaurant business, working in kitchens mostly. And then I met my husband somewhere along the way because I was trying to put together a rock band on my own. I saw how well the bands were doing in the clubs, and I thought I wanted to do that. And I knew that I had talent. So I set about meeting my husband, Dave, through music. So, Dave, my sweet Dave. We've been together now since 1987. So I can't do the math on that, but it's been a while, okay? Over 30 years. And anyhow, we got married right away. Like, he proposed to me literally 3 weeks after we met. And it was moving a little too fast for me. So I kind of put the brakes on it, and I said, well, let's live together for a little while first. But by that next spring, we had tied the knot on a shoestring wedding with a backyard reception at his aunt's or his cousin's house. And it was very sweet and very simple, a little wedding, little ceremony. And right away, right after we were married, I discovered I was pregnant. I did not know that I was pregnant when I walked down the aisle. I swear to God, I did not know. All I knew was that my dress was fitting me a little tight, and I couldn't figure it out because I'd been working out a lot. I'd been swimming 3-4 miles a week in the pool. And I thought, well, maybe I'm just, building some muscle or something. I had to have my dress let out. So that was wild to just be like, instant family, just add water, right? And, but we were very poor at that point in time. His family helped us out a little bit, but we lived in a trailer home, in a trailer park in Florida. And it was not a nice trailer either. It was like an early 1970s trailer with holes in the floor. And that little baby came along, Lisa, my oldest, and we struggled for many, many years from that point forward, just inching our way up one little bit at a time. Eventually, about time Lisa was 6 years old, we bought the house that I'm sitting in today, and also with help from his mother for the down payment. Thank God she helped us. She also helped us pay it off, incidentally. She was an angel, a saint. And so this little house here, I ended up raising 3 kids in. It's just a little Florida block house. It's nothing fancy. I love my backyard with all my trees, and I'm very, very happy in this house still to this day. It's not a waterfront mansion, and it's not a fancy new house, and it's small and the rooms are small, but it is home, and there's so much love in these walls. I raised a beautiful little family here, and I love them all so very, very much. But one of the ways we got by was through thrifting. I could not have raised these 3 kids at all on a construction worker's income and on a bedside nurse's income without the help of thrifting. And it enabled me to put clothes on their backs and shoes on their feet and have enough money left over for groceries and the occasional vacation. And some, little perks here and there. Dave was always good at fixing things up. So we'd get, a used boat here and there, and he would work on it and fix it up. And we would take the family out on the water for entertainment or go to the beach. There's lots of things to do that you don't have to spend a lot of money on. But thrifting also became not just a way to raise my family, but also to entertain ourselves. So a lot of times it just kind of became a challenge. And somewhere when the kids were little, around, I guess I want to say 3 to 5 years old, my youngest 2, Pesci and Dylan, I discovered selling on eBay. So by now the internet had come in and eBay was in its infancy. It was a pretty young platform back then. And I discovered online selling. Before that, it was AOL Online. Do you guys remember the message boards on AOL? We had like mommy boards, what they called for work at home moms, WAMs. And you could buy and sell used kids' clothing and things like that through the message boards. But then along comes PayPal and eBay. And it made the online selling a lot easier. And so I just kind of casually bought and sold things online. When the kids would outgrow their clothes, I would often have, big yard sales and things like that. And that always brought in a little extra money. But sometimes you would just have something that was a little too nice to sell at a yard sale. So I would use eBay to sell things, and I made a little extra money here and there, and it was always enough to maybe help buy Christmas or little extra things that we needed. So I've scraped by a lot. I'm very frugal attitude for most things, but then I'll spend on other things. But I think that frugality is a lifestyle that allows you to be able to afford nicer things when you want them. So I don't skimp on everything. I mean, there's some things I won't skimp on, but the frugality helps me to be able to afford nicer things when I want them, like turquoise jewelry, for instance. So, yeah, that was, the way I raised this family, thrifting and all that. And then David, also us being musicians, he got into buying and selling musical instruments and guitars and things like that. And he actually started working on building guitars at one point in time, was creating what they call relics and little works of art in instrumental form. And he was doing all right with that. And then the market really became saturated, and his Parkinson's got so bad that he could no longer do the fine detail stuff, the twisting of the knobs. And it just was getting to be too hard. Like what would take me a minute to do would take him 5 minutes to do because of the shaking and not being able to, do the fine motor stuff. So, I mean, there really isn't anything in our lives that isn't impacted by Parkinson's now, which makes me doubly thankful that I've always been a thrifter, because if I hadn't been a thrifter, I wouldn't have these skills to rely on now that I need them. And here's Dave. He's popping in to say hi. Say hi to everybody, Dave.
Hi, good morning.
So I'm telling everybody our thrift story, how we've come to where we are. And I'm going to wrap it up here pretty quick. I don't want to take too much of y'all's time. But to bringing us to the present day, with Dave's Parkinson's, he can't really work. And getting out of the house is good therapy. It gets him out of these four walls. And sometimes he's in this house, like he can't move. Like he'll just get frozen, and his neuro symptoms will just start to overwhelm. And so what's been really helpful for us is just having a place to go, something to do. Like, okay, we're going to take 5 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. We're going to go up to the waterfront mission, and he might be able to walk by the time we get there, just the whole change of view. And, but he gets like short periods of the day where he can walk and do things. And then a lot of the other time of the day he's just spent frozen and can't really do much at all. And he'll lay in bed a lot or on the couch a lot. But thrifting has afforded us the flexibility to still do something, to be a little bit productive. And so it's been great therapy. Now I am back to work full time, and then some. But I'm balancing right now. It's a balancing act for me. I'm enjoying the thrifting a lot, and all of our thrifting led to the need for us to start reselling. Like we had to. Their stuff was piling up, and I was like, okay, time to let some of this stuff go. And then it became more of an obsession of thrifting to resale. So that's where we are now. We're, in the fledgling stage of this thrifting to resale lifestyle. We haven't really made enough on eBay yet to officially call it a business. I'm still way under 5,000 for the year, but I've got maybe almost 2,000 in the last 90 days on eBay, which I'm really excited about. And every time I hear that ka-ching, it just makes my day. Like I'm always so excited. I rescued something from the thrifted wild, and I'm moving it along to where it can be appreciated, and it just keeps, goods in circulation instead of getting lost to the sands of time or piled up in a dump or what have you. So I think that's kind of cool. It's just a really fun, unique lifestyle. And I think that most of you who are here would agree, because you're here for a reason, because you like thrifting too. And, so yeah, thrifting for money, thrifting for entertainment, thrifting for therapy, and and thrifting for a creative outlet, because your scenery is constantly changing when you thrift. You never get bored, because okay, I'm going to hold on to this for a little while. It's going to sit on my shelf, and I'm going to look at it and enjoy it, and then I'm going to move it on to the next place, and the next person can enjoy it. So that is our thrift story, you guys. I appreciate you hanging out with me. I know it was a little convoluted and a little bit long, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you a little more insight into who David and I and what our little channel is about. I do hope that if it's your first time here, you decide to like and subscribe. There's going to be a lot more coming. I'm still working on my editing skills, and that's still a work in progress for me, but I'll get there. I have a lot going on, and so it's not like I can just take hours and hours to work some tutorial right now, but I'll get there eventually. So thank you for hanging in there with me and putting up with my lousy editing, but I'm grateful for all of you. And keep calm and thrift on. Bye.